The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome, beloveds, to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor. And once again, my heart rejoices. I am excited. I feel those good butterflies in the stomach that are going to the right direction, like my mentor, Tim Grover, says. You know, Tim Grover, one of my mentors, he said when he was training Michael Jordan, that Michael Jordan, before going to compete in the basketball games, he will say to Tim, I feel butterflies in my stomach. And Tim will say to him, just make sure that the butterflies are going in the right direction. So I got that from him. So I have good butterflies fluttering today because, you know, our focus, as you know, in the Spirituality Now podcast is to deliver really practical spirituality, ancient wisdom applied for the modern times. We're in a time where humanity requires, well, it's not only requires, it's happening, right? When timelines are happening simultaneously, simultaneous realities are just showing up. Quantum physics, quantum healing is no longer a woo-woo term, it's something that collectively suddenly began to be accepted after eons and eons and eons of time of work. And I truly believe that our guest today, it's coming to enhance that power, to create, to leave an energy signature footprint in our podcast. And remember that our podcast is philanthropic. The reason we do this is because we didn't want to add a lot of advertisement from other people. We love to support businesses. We love to support local business, Latin American businesses, and any entrepreneur that spiritual material, the mental entrepreneur. We in spirituality is all inclusive, but we wanted to keep this space for you to have just like these master classes with these incredible guests that we get the privilege to receive and host. And the podcast is sponsored by one of our companies, Delaflor Teachings International, a systemic and coaching and systemic, spiritual and systemic coaching and mentorship company. We work with companies, individuals, we do retreats, all the juicy stuff, from shadow work to futuring work to being more present in the moment so we can thrive in this lila, the play of consciousness, the game of life. We are also produced and sponsored by Authority Syndication Market, as in media. And even though it's in the intro, I always like to pay tribute to who supports this podcast to be as philanthropic and as clean and pure as possible so that our guests get the stage for them, because it's about all of you who are listening to this. So with that said, my beloved friends, let me introduce you to our beloved guest. Her name is Stephanie Banks. Stephanie Banks is a highly sought after intuitive channel. I feel shivers when I say that. I've known Abraham, I've known every single channel possible, spend time with Bashar and all of that. But for some reason, this interview is giving me shivers like all over. So it's a good feeling. She's a mentor and guide who helps people connect on the soul level. She channels from the perspective of any soul currently on the planet, souls on the other side, purely non-physical beings such as spirit guides, as well as trees, animals, and Gaia. Oh, Beloveds, me that I had a near-death experience, I was dead for 28 seconds. I know what she's talking about. So, connection and communication are the common themes in all of Stephanie's professional endeavors as a speech and language pathologist, birth doula, lactation consultant, oh my goodness, infant massage instructor, and intuitive channel. When her mother's dementia made verbal communication impossible, Stephanie found ways to communicate with her mother's soul. This was the beginning of her channeling journey. As a conscious channel, Stephanie is both the vessel to receive the messages as well as a guide to provide depth and context for the information coming through. She uses her keen sense of humor, can't wait for this, love and compassion to join her clients in their spiritual experience. Stephanie also mentors clients in discerning their own inner voice of wisdom. And oh my goodness, do we need this more than ever? Discernment to listen to the inner voice. When propaganda is loud, we got to listen to the voice within. She helps people enhance their confidence and self trust, improving their relationships, clarifying their soul's purpose, and finding their laughter and joy. She is the author of the bestseller, Joining Joni, Staying Connected to Your Loved Ones Through Dementia and Beyond. Stephanie is currently completing her second book about her spiritual journey. In her TEDx talk, I Am an Intuitive Channel, she shares her unexpected experience with channeling and invites others to discover their own intuitive gifts. My beloved friend that we will encounter each other in this lifetime, welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much, you lovely, lovely, beautiful soul. I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness! I know our team is in the background, right? And I'll the end I'll ask them how they're feeling, but I am feeling this like tingling sensation in my heart. So I'm gonna go with the flow here, and I'm going to go. I love that you're a Berdula. I am at Berdula too. Like all the things that you studied. I don't done rebirthing for many years, family constellation. So I feel like a keen connection with you. And interesting, my mother had a multiple sclerosis since when I turned 7 years old. So the connection is very similar. So I'm going to start with the mother just to honor our background, just to honor where we come from. So tell me a little bit where Stephanie began to, because I do know that you are a channel, an intuitive channel, and your mom gave that key to enhance something that was you. But so how was the journey of Stephanie as a little child, your inner child? And then take us to from your inner child, how was your spiritual experience? Take us to the mother, and then when the channeling begins. So it was 1, 2, 3 parts.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for the organized approach. That will help my mind very much. I would say as a child, I was always deeply connected to animals, trees, plants, life on the planet. And it's where I still find my greatest peace. In fact, when I'm doing my spiritual work, if I do not get outside in nature every day, I'm really not the same person. It's very hard for me to find the frequency and the grounding that I prefer to carry in order to be a clear channel if I am not accessing that from our beautiful Mother Earth. So that was has always been a part for me. And then with regards to my own relationship with my mother, it was complex, like a lot of people's, relationships are. The mother-daughter relationship can be complicated. My mom struggled with some mental illness throughout her adulthood, and that really served to help me get very aware of my surroundings, tuning into her moods and to her frequency so that I could be prepared for whatever I needed to navigate. And that's not unlike a lot of people who have a loved one who has some sort of mental challenge. When my mom was in her 50s, she was diagnosed with a type of dementia that affects younger people. It's not Alzheimer's, it's called frontotemporal dementia. And I was working full time as a speech pathologist in hospital settings. I had a lot of patients who had dementia. So I was very familiar with how to work with people who had cognitive challenges. But when it's your own mother, it's a totally different game. And I found myself needing to communicate and understand her communication in ways that would have to transcend what we consider traditional verbal communication, because with dementia, those pathways to communicating and understanding language start to break apart, and it's just not it's not an option at some point for many people. And I knew that's where we were headed because the nature of dementia is progressive. So I had a friend at the time who was a channel. She did what I now do. In fact, she was my very first teacher and mentor. And I would sit with her in her backyard at night once our kids were in bed, and I would ask her, please, will you channel my mom's soul? Because I don't know how to provide her with the support she needs. I don't even know what she needs. She can't tell me very easily. It's very frustrating to have interactions and conversations. And I really wanted to go beyond what I could perceive clinically and understand her from a spiritual level. So my best friend would channel my mom's soul and give me incredibly powerful, useful insights, information, and guidance so that I could stay connected with my mom through the remainder of her journey with dementia, all the way through her passing, where I was right there with her at the bedside and understand what her soul was saying to me, even when her brain and her mouth couldn't function properly to make it clear. And it really let me have such a beautiful time, a beautiful relationship. I was able to reach forgiveness about things that have been weighing heavy on my heart from my childhood. I was able to release her from some of the heaviness that I'd experienced or that I'd been carrying. I could feel from her essence that she was doing the same, and we met somewhere totally different, and that was profound.
Wow, that I'm feeling shivers because in a way, it's kind of quantum jumping, but to what people call the past, but it's a simultaneous reality timeline, right? And through the pain, through the sorrows, through the challenges, I can relate with you because my mother had mental illness and all that stuff. How with your choices of just your soul and heart, like I need to communicate with my mother, just that thought of yours is like highly aware, a spiritual refinement that very few of us reach unless we do a lot of shadow work, right? A lot of pain work in order to understand the joys that come from forgiveness and healing. And I'm really moved, and it's just the beginning of the podcast. I'm really moved that that through your practice, through your openness to connect with her, and again, you said it's different with the mother. I can't imagine. It's because there's an emotional engagement, right? There's a vested identity too. I'm hoping that what you are sharing right now, it helps people understand and communicate to another level with their parents, and to understand that even when the past, one timeline of the past, may have created trauma, pain, etc., we still can change in our now, enhance our memories, and move forward with forgiveness, joy, communication, and love. And I really believe that's what you did. So you said something really powerful that I love, that you understood before this happening, because you're a speech pathologist. I'm fascinated by you, by the way. And I've been watching your videos and everything, and I'm like, every single person that interviews you, like, they're fascinated with your work. I am too, because you have all these incredible, let's say, scientific solid background, but you are also so connected to Gaia, to spirit. It's like, the 1 foot on heaven and 1 foot on earth. But when you were a speech pathologist and everything, what was the most challenging thing, would you say, when you were eager to communicate with your mother, coming from the speech pathologist practice experience, into entering into a speech, I'm going to say, as an intuitive channel speech psychologist. Let's say it like that. What was the most challenge? If it was something, because I want people to understand that, they may experience challenges too, but it's worth it to go through it because of the experience of healing and forgiveness. But walk us a little bit through the challenges that you faced.
Oh, yes, it's a brilliant question because there is a completely opposite approach that I was taught as a clinician that I was using with my communication with my mother than that which I shifted into when I connected to her soul. So as a clinician, what I was using in my sessions with my patients was I would ask them questions and they would provide the correct answers to the questions. And if their answers were wrong, then I would cue them and give them other, hints or verbal cues or sound cues so that they could get to the right answers. And that's the clinical part of it. We want to work on the parts of the brain that have the deficits, and we want them to either find new pathways of areas of the brain that are more healthy, that because the brain will rewire and create new pathways if it's possible to do so. And so that's the angle of coming from a clinical standpoint. But what was more important to me with regards to my relationship with my mother was not for me to get her to get the right answer, but for us to stay connected. And the two things are not the same. They are sometimes diametrically opposite. So, for example, if someone like my mom has dementia and she walks outside and it's 98 degrees, which it is because we live in Florida, and she says to me, "Oh, it's so cold out here. I'm so cold." I do not need to tell her, "It's 98 degrees. You are not cold. Did you mean that you're hot? Can you tell me that you're hot instead?" No, that is not how we maintain connection. If she says she's cold, I'm going to follow her flow. This is the connection part of it, which is what communication is really about, connection. And I'll go back into the house and get her a sweater. If she feels cold, she knows that's how she feels. If she didn't mean to say that she's cold and I bring her a sweater, then what we're going to do is we're going to laugh about that. She's going to realize, oh, I must have miscommunicated or I used the wrong word. And my daughter was listening. She was paying attention. She cared about me. She cared for me. She brought me a sweater. And here we are looking at each other as we're sweating. Sweat is dripping down our faces. And we're looking at the sweater like this is not going to work. So that's the beauty.
Wow.
That's the beauty of coming from the angle of staying connected versus getting the right answer or getting it right. And what a lot of people make the mistake in doing is trying to reorient their beloved family member or friend who has the cognitive difficulties into getting it right when it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is to stay connected.
Wow. You know what, Stephanie? This gives me shivers because this works for everything and everyone.
Yes.
I mean, I'm feeling emotional now. It's been happening more and more to me. I'm feeling so grateful that someone like you exists that can come to us and tell us, the purpose of communication is the connection, not being right, not telling people what to do. It's because, I was thinking when you were saying that, first, it gave me so much joy. And I was laughing like, we will laugh, if we both put the sweater and we're both sweating like a sauna, what's the worst thing that can happen? We're going to laugh like, look at us here with a teddy bear, coat and gloves and everything. But I love that because this is acknowledging the soul of people, is granting beingness. And it opens really the heart for more connection and deeper acceptance of who people are instead of us, as you said, projecting our need to control, our need to be right, our this should be like this. That's no difference than using forceps to bring a child out into the world. For me, it's like if there were, energetically like spirit forceps, this will be it. We're going to force into you have to adapt. And I think that's one of the challenges of autism. I have a son that was diagnosed in the spectrum. And one of the most challenging things is that people wanted him to fit in a box where he already came with his own.
Yeah.
He already came with his own home. It's for us to adapt and connect with him because, to find the gift of that. So this is incredibly powerful. I love that. And, Stephanie, I noticed a lot of joy when you share. Even
Mm.
when you were sharing the challenge and this, there was the joy, like we're going to discover something good. And so when your mother, you began to do that, you really, you train for this. Speech pathologist is not far away from being an intuitive channel for communication with
Yeah.
spirit. Would you say that this connection of you being able to flow with this so beautiful and organically? Obviously, maybe it's an obvious question, but has to do with your deep connection that you have. I can feel it with natural law, with Gaia, with Earth.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Because when in the deep connection that I feel and the deep love, reverence, respect, and fierce protection that I feel towards our planet and all the life upon it, it has a profound effect in everything that I do. I see things so differently. I actually do empathically feel the suffering of the planet, the destruction of our forests, and the suffering of the ocean and the creatures in the ocean. So this is what my soul brought in. I'm really grateful. It's not easy. It can feel very burdensome sometimes when my self-care isn't sufficient. But in general, it's such a gift to have this high sensitivity and this high level of awareness and depth of connection to life on the planet, to Gaia, to all of her beloved beings, because I know this is what informs my work. It's what impacts my words. It's what blesses the space between me and whomever I'm serving. It's everything.
Wow, I'm just taking a moment to receive it. And, I love that you said, the burden, because, most of us all that are at the service of, right, or that are here to cultivate our spiritual practice, that here to cultivate self mastery, here to cultivate a more compassionate heart, to be calm in the midst of the storms and still helping people not sink in the boats of their own life, right? We have a duty. I believe that the more self-aware we are, the more responsibility we have towards supporting this planet that hosts us. But the burdens are real, right? There is loneliness. There's, I feel you, because if I drive and I begin to see people suffering, or homeless people, etc., oh, my suffering is real. I just don't
Mm.
bring it out to the public, but it's a connection. Again, we're going to go with the word connection here. We begin to communicate deeper with the souls, and there's no escape from what's going on, right?
That's right. That's right. We can't look away.
Yes.
We also don't have to take it all on and
Oh,
all in all the time, because
yes.
that causes burnout and ultimately disconnection. Nobody can maintain a healthy nervous system under those conditions. But
Yes.
what I like to tell people
Yes,
is
please.
that if you can find what breaks your heart and serve in some way into that, you are accomplishing one of the major purposes of your soul being here.
Oof. Wow. Say some more about that. If you can find what breaks your heart and you can serve in that.
Yes.
Oof. Give us a couple of examples, because I think you just created homeopathic energy medicine, right? Homeopathy is you use the ailment of the disease. You use the same, like the poison. Like if a bee stings you, there is an homeopathic remedy called Apis mellifica, which comes from the sting of the bee. And they use this homeopathic remedy to give you, if you got an allergy from that, and that heals you. And that the poison heals the same poison that brought you the illness brings you the healing. So say a little bit more about that, please, Stephanie.
Oh, I love that analogy that you made. That's perfect. So for me, there are many, many things that break my heart, and that's probably similar for many people here, your listeners. But if I were to pick one, what is very, very present for me right now is homeless animals. So this summer, I took my kids to this the biggest animal sanctuary in the US that is a no-kill sanctuary, and we did a lot of volunteer work. And because that breaks my heart, I mean, I really mean breaks my heart. It takes my breath away when I see the numbers of animals that are healthy and here to love us unconditionally and filled with joy and bringing, they are gifts from Creator. I have no doubt about this. And to see the level of suffering that humans have created for these precious animal beings is gut-wrenching for me. And so what I do is I serve into that. I show up in service to supporting the vision that I hold of them being loved in safe homes by kind, compassionate, caring humans. I support the animal rescues that are local to me, or like I said, I will travel somewhere to expose my children and bring us closer to the animals in that way. I can share with my friends and on my social media platforms, hey, this dog really needs a home and he's so great. And I met him and he's like, there's so many things we can do. And every time I am in action to something that is in a current heartbreaking state, I am providing healing. I am providing soothing. I'm providing an opposite vision for what is presenting, and I'm allowing my vision for what is possible to be manifest. And it's very easy to say, oh, well, what can I do? Just one person. We cannot say or ask that anymore. We must show up as the one being we are with the
Amen.
tremendous power that we have and do what we can.
Oof, wow. You know how they say, how my children say, drop the mic. You know, drop the microphone. Oh, I'm feeling, what is called that energy, the Kundalini energy on my spine going up and down, up and down. This is so powerful. I love, Stephanie, the way you choose to use your words. I believe I'm surrounded by people and mentors that are very cognitive of the power of their language. But
Mhm.
with you, is the first time that I not only feel that power of the chosen word, but feel the spirit so strongly connected with the heart. And the moral authority of what you just said is like unbelievably powerful. I only felt that once with one of my mentors. His name was Stephen Covey. I got the privilege to be mentored by him just a couple of times, but he had that there's no need for a lot of words. The communication happens before the words are uttered. And it's
Mhm.
because you come from the living experience, the embodiment of what you're saying, and you are not saying things that you are not doing. You are actually taking action upon that. This is the realm of faith, right? Taking our faith into action, because if not, it's dead. Love the call to action you just did for all of us. Yeah, and I love that you said there's no more time of like do whatever you want. No, get it done.
Yes.
Get it done. Like it's not about like, yeah. Anyways, oh my gosh, now I forgot that I was interviewing you. I'm like getting into a passionate rant on myself here.
Good. I support that. Go
Oh,
for it.
Stephanie, my friend, so glad you're here. So tell me something. So I want to ask you something as an intuitive channel, and then we'll go into the channeling world. How did your children took this? Because one of the things I remember, I used to channel, and when I was far much more younger, and a part of the family system were like, oh no, that's not okay,
Mhm.
all that. So how was your, hey family, yes, I'm a clinician, yes, I'm this professional, this, and I am this too. Share a
Oh,
little bit about that process.
yes. Well, I will say that my kids have been tremendously supportive of my work, and they have two of the three of them have actually experienced my work. So I have either channeled for them for particular questions that they had, or for people, loved ones on the other side that they wanted to hear from, or they have accompanied me to some of my channeling groups when I will travel or teach workshops or do channeled messages for groups of 20 or 30 or 40 people. So they have had the experience of being in that energetic exchange. And that has been such a gift for me, I know for sure, and also for them, because they can feel and decide for themselves if this is something that resonates. I never want them to feel like they have to adopt my beliefs or share them. But I do want them to decide how, based on how it feels within them, make those choices for themselves. So I've gotten great support. And my oldest was I was homeschooling him when I first started my channeling business. So he had the opportunity to see new clients coming through. I mean, not in person, but I would tell him, oh, that I had such a wonderful session. And sometimes I would share some magic that happened, and he would just get a kick out of it. And I loved that. He was in 7th and 8th grade at the time, and it was really fun for him to see me creating a practice around this, serving people, supporting people, and the amazing synchronistic things that unfolded as a result of it. So always I have felt that my kids are completely supportive of this. I
How
did not
beautiful.
have that, however, with my marriage.
Yes.
So I'm not in that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dito, Dito, where are our green teas to cheer upon that?
But like you mentioned with your own family,
Yes.
this can feel threatening to some people. Sometimes it threatens their religious beliefs. Sometimes it threatens their logical approach to life, because channeling occurs through the right brain. That is where we have our divine connection, our creativity, our receptivity, our connection to spirit. Our present, it's the present moment. And the left brain is where we do our logic and our thinking and our future thinking and our thinking of the past. So the brain is perfect, is perfectly designed, it's beautifully connected, but we have a society, a culture, and much of the world which is very much focused on valuing the left side of the brain over the right side. So we have all these overdeveloped left brain ways of managing things that really should be managed by the right brain, our intuition. The right brain is for our intuition. So that can be a hang up for some people if channeling itself doesn't fit into what they logically experience from the world. That can feel threatening to them, or they can just dismiss it or discount it. And that's okay. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything, but I also don't have to waste time, energy, and resources in trying to make them to bring them into what I believe. There's plenty of people and plenty of awakening that's going on right now that brings us into alignment.
Wow, I love this, and we honor people's choices, but it's true, we because the more you do what your soul calls you to do, I call it like, I'm doing the job, my duty, my divine duty of God. I'm doing what God wants me to do, and for me, that's priority, right? But you create a distance from the environment that you used to create with others based on who you were, and for them to keep existing, sometimes they need you to stay where you were at, but you are no longer there. So it will create resistance, it will create a challenge, but by no means, the reason I'm speaking about this, because I know a lot of people that listen to us, they want to go into, from being a lawyer to mentoring service, from being a doctor to channeling, from being spiritual to be business, whatever it is, the transition that you want, do it all. Follow the call of your soul, like Stephanie. The vibration of Stephanie is kind of speaking to us more than the podcast interview, right? And everything will be okay. Because it is, it's our delusions, our fragmented perception of reality and our identities and our belief systems that sometimes create this miscommunication, right? And so,
Absolutely.
Stephanie, well, let's go to the channeling thing. So how was it for you the first time that you channel? Did you feel like, oh, what, like, my body feels different, like this voice is different? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Oh, it was very exciting and very scary. I will never, ever forget it. So I learned to channel by using a pendulum and by having the pendulum spell out things for me. And I could not believe when it actually started moving and going towards certain letters. In fact, one time I got so kind of freaked out about it that I threw it and it went flying and cracked on the floor. I just wasn't I didn't, there's really not a lot of preparing you for the feeling of energy that can move through when we're channeling. But in the type of channeling that I do right now, which is not, I don't use a pendulum for, it's very fluid and it's, based in language, and a lot of messages come through just like you and I are talking right now. That's how the messages come through. And the first session I ever had with a client, I was so nervous. I was sweating buckets. I had this fear. What if nothing happens? What if I don't get any messages and we just sit and we stare at each other? And it's such a, a failure. All the things that left brain, the inner critic has us thinking or believing sometimes. It was one of the best sessions ever. And the person that I was channeling for was the most gracious, kind, beautiful soul. He's still in my world. It is a thrill. The way that I channel is I call it's called conscious channeling. I don't necessarily
Love it.
feel in my body that something is coming in. That's not the
Yes.
way I work.
Yes.
Some people do, and if that works for them, perfect. But I prefer just me in
I
here.
love this, Stephanie. Oh, but I love this. You know why? Once upon a time, I was studying many years ago something called healthy bonding and attachment. I had an amazing teacher who passed 2 years ago, Ray Castellino, for it was rebirthing, wombs around processes, a lot of trauma healing, all that stuff. And one day I said, my mother, before she died, she said, when she was with multiple sclerosis, she said, I only imagine my body. I channel it. I go, my spirit, send it to the body of my daughter so she can channel me and I can walk and I can do all of these things. And I remember being very shocked. I was like, no, I don't want my mother in my body. I already was in her body. And I remember telling him, he says, there's no way that anyone, mother, father, any spirit can be channeled through you if you are fully who you are.
Oh, I
Let
love
your
that.
soul speak through you and nothing else would interfere with that. And be fully who you are. And I still remember. So when you are sharing this, I'm a yes person to what you just said. It's actually, the channeling intuitive of your own intuition, that whisper of God that is inside of us all that becomes so loud. The more we trust it, the more we develop it, right? It's like an inner gym that isn't it funny that in spirituality we work very deep within and the without starts changing, right? The
Yeah.
above and below, all of that. So I love that it's actually you so tuning with this. Plus, you have the skills of both sides of the brain, Stephanie. You have the right and the left. I mean, you have like the whole good, in Mexico we say is the whole enchilada. The whole spiritual enchilada. I love that you are like so grounded and so what is the like what is the experience? How can people open up to what you as a channel have to say so they can impact and benefit their lives because you have helped thousands of people already. But what is our like? We come to you. Walk
Mhm.
me a little bit
Oh,
about.
okay. Yes. So when I'm working with a client in a private session, I really let them and encourage them to guide the whole session. I trust that they know what is on their heart that they can receive the most benefit from. So instead of saying, oh, just channel whatever's here for me, sometimes new clients might say that. And I will say, well, actually, that's not going to be the most helpful to you, but take a moment, tune into your heart. Let it speak to you. What's sitting there? What do you need clarity on? What challenges or struggles are hard for you in this moment? And let's go there. So I channel for many parents. I channel from the soul perspective of their children. It does not matter if their children are young or if they are fully grown. When you hear what your child's soul needs from you, you can show up to them more beautifully, more fully, more authentically. I also channel for couples in relationships who want to understand what is their soul agreement with each other. How do they serve one another better, understand one another better, work through things that are difficult. I channel for CEOs of publicly traded companies who have questions, anything from personal and family related to their work or the people they're going to hire, or the decisions that they have with merging with this or that or anything like that. We can go to the spirit and the guidance. We all have spirit guides for everything we do in this lifetime. And they love to be in co-creation and communication with us, but they don't just swoop in and do things for us, because then we're not participating, we're not learning, we're not sharing. But they do show up every time we ask. And then it's on us to say, thank you for that. And I also would like to be clear about this for next time, and continue the dialogue with our spirit guides, because they are here to support us on our journeys.
Okay. So sorry for the pause. This will be edited. It's I was just making notes because of what I was feeling, and I forgot. I'm like, oh my gosh, Yvonne, come back to the podcast. So I love this because this spirit. It's it just makes sense. I recently saw, and you remind me of Gandhi. Let me tell you why. Because he said that his advancement that he had in the world, in the legal world, in the liberation of India world, in the business world, came because of his spiritual practices. He said that the progress he's winning was that. And it's obvious, for, well, not that obvious, for people, but I love that entrepreneurs, business owners, corporate people are opening for that, because it is the other side of the brain that we got to develop. There is so much more that we cannot see, that is the spirit guides, the protectors, the spiritual realm is as alive, if not more, than this physical realm that we're incarnated right now. So I love that you provide that. And I love that you provide it from your intuitive self, from your background, not only as a clinician, but also as someone that is so connected to spirit, to Gaia, to animals, to earth, and to people. And you have done something remarkable to communicate with the mother that hosted you in her womb to come to this earth, and to go through the process of forgiveness and healing, and find a new way to communicate. So, not that we are right in our communication, but that we can connect to the soul of another. And Stephanie, for me, that's like, I am really envisioning that this podcast is going to be heard by many, many people, and that they will begin to see and use the power of communication, the power of their intuition for the higher purpose of that connection. That's where unity resides. Right? That's where the experience of oneness, of empathy, of interconnectedness resides. So I have so much gazillion questions. So Stephanie, we're going to put all your links so people can contact you for private sessions, for following you on social media. We have a little ritual in the podcast for everyone. And I just want to open the doors for you, Stephanie. Whenever you want to come back, this is your home.
Oh,
This is your
thank
home.
you.
Well, before the ritual, oh my gosh, I'm so impacted by your transmission. Tell me a little bit about your book.
Oh, that I'm working on, or the one I've done?
Oh, I would love to talk about, for the one that you are working, you are invited to the podcast back.
Oh, yay, good. I will do
So
it for
you
sure.
can just tell us the title, but tell us a little bit of the published book so people know. And then
Okay.
what work are you doing? And then I'll tell you about the little ritual to close this podcast.
Okay. So the book that I wrote some years ago is called Joining Joni, Staying Connected to Your Loved One Through Dementia and Beyond. And it is for anybody that has someone in their life who has dementia or really any other type of cognitive disorder. The book is filled with humor. It's also very poignant. There's some very beautiful, powerful moments that I capture in there, just really to illustrate to others how important it is to be really present with our loved ones and to enjoy and to uplift one another, because that's why we're here. That's so much of what we are here to do, is simply to love. So, but there's a lot of practical advice. I'm a very pragmatic type of person. So as a clinician, I'm also writing it from the perspective of do this, don't do that. Make sure you never do this, and always try this. So that's very helpful. And the book I'm writing right now is about my personal journey as an intuitive channel, and that
Oh, wow.
I hope will be out soon.
Oh, well, you are welcome to the podcast and we can talk about that one. We can
Yes,
talk about
yes,
that one. I
I
think
love it.
this one was very powerful to have you. This is the power of communication. Really, what communication is really meant for unity and for connection. Communication is for connection, not for separation. So we have, beloved Stephanie, a ritual that at the end of the show, our guests offer a blessing, call to action for our audience.
Yay. Okay, here we go. I invite all of us, if you are safe doing so, to close your eyes and connect to your heart through your breath. Just taking a couple breaths in through that wise organ, that wise intuitive organ of the heart, breathing in through the front of it and out through the back of it. And as you breathe, see yourself as a very important part of this beautiful tapestry of life, of which we are all connected, we are all valued, we are all equally important. See a space or a being that you feel particularly loved by and for which you have tremendous love. It might be by a river, it might be under a tree, it might be with a beloved animal, it might be with a beloved human. And bring in beautiful energy exchange, blessing that beloved being with your breath, surrounding them in light and in love, and receiving the exact same from them. This is what we are here to do for one another. May we continue.
Wow. Wow, taking it all in, everyone. Wow, what a blessing, Stephanie. What a joy and what a transmission you gave us. Beyond the words, there's the transmission. So, oh, what a blessing. Thank you, Stephanie, for being here. Hey, everyone, we'll put every single, her website, her social, everything you need to be able to connect with her. I actually, encourage you to do so. So we all can be more living from the spirit and bring that inner world to the outer world and help the animals, the crystals, the plant world, the children, and all of us humans, because this is our humanity, this is our human family, and it takes a village to raise a humans. Thank you, beloved Stephanie, and we will see you all next week, same channels, and we send you a big kiss. Un beso. Adiós. Thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and share us with a friend. To learn more about how to live more present in the moment and take your faith into action, visit delaflorteachings.com/faith to access the free training of 21 Days of Faith in Action today.